Gemini, hi, it's Erin Scott here. So let's tap in to your 2019 cycle. Last month in January, I went out on a beautiful day, cold, sunny, clear, overlooking the mountain, the picture that you see now on the screen. And I took out my Wild Kuan Yin Oracle cards and I pulled in session outside. I pulled the growth arcs, the experience sets, the themes for your unfolding story that will be activated for you, a prime growth. It will be activated for Gemini suns and Gemini ascendants. This is based on the archetypal embodiment of Gemini ascendants and suns only. And you received the same narrative, Gemini, as Libra. It's important to understand that both you and Libra are air signs, and that talks about the air signs are oriented toward thought and mind. And when I go into the details of the numerology and the meaning of your particular narrative, you're going to understand that this is indeed an appropriate time, 2019, for you to tap this other area, to focus on evolving this other area of your brain, of your recognition. So you're going to understand what I'm talking about here. So Gemini, you received number 17, Sacred Falcon Shows the Way. So let's talk about the numerology and then we'll talk about the meaning. 17, 1 and 7. 1 is the individual. It is fire. It's your source. It's inspiration. It is initiation. It's the bursting of the seed as it starts to germinate, right? So it's the individual. It's you as a self. 7 is about the great mysteries. It's the paradox. It's the reality that living systems cannot ever fully be known. There's always a little bit of mystery inherent. Together it's 8, right? 1 and 7. And 8 is about flow. It's about abundance. It's about feedback loop, natural feedback loop. As within, so without. As above, so below. As one aspect shifts, so does its opposite. That's number 8. 8 also has to do with things such as wealth and money and power, issues of power. And the reason being is that it does have to do with natural flow. So all of those elements are a sub-narrative. It's entrenched in what I'm going to tell you now about the card. This is Wild Kuan Yin speaking to you. My wisdom is embodied in nature. I speak to you through the language of the natural world. You will understand my guidance for you as you trust in your observations of nature. Look for my signs. My language is symbolic, humorous, clear, and loving. I talk to you every day, my divine wild child. Within you are the wild instincts and the loving intuitions that can recognize my signs, the presence of my guiding hand. I am speaking to you. Believe. Inherently, this is about opening up your vision to understand that nature, cosmos, life speaks. It communicates constantly. If you have the eyes to see it, and if you actually engage in dialogue with it, your body, your context, nature itself, the animal kingdom, anything, you will have feedback. If you're open, if you believe, if you understand that that is the way it operates, it will speak to you and it'll give you clarity and it will also give you symbolic reflection. So this is the meaning of this particular cycle, your growth cycle, your experiential cycle in 2019. What are you experiencing in order to learn what? Okay. The Divine Mother has many ways of communicating. We can be most receptive to her helpful guidance when we are open, without expectation as to how she shall communicate or what she shall tell us. We must be willing to trust our hearts when we feel moved, even if our logical mind has doubts. Your heart just knows when you have received a sign from the Divine Mother. It could be the most ordinary occurrence, a simple remark made by another, a song on the radio, the sudden appearance of an animal. Yet underneath this apparent ordinariness, there is a sense of the numinous, a magic that catches your breath before your mind steps in to discount it as fanciful. You sense and feel something profound beneath the appearance of the everyday. Or perhaps your sign is more dramatic, an accident that seems like a warning, or a synchronicity too vivid or compelling to ignore. What shows a sign to be a communication from the divine rather than any mundane happening, and I will just interrupt that and say, really, life is always communicating and nothing really is mundane and to be ignored. So I'm going to disagree with Alana there. It is the feeling that accompanies it. Okay, so tap into your feeling nature. It captures your attention and you sense there is meaning for you, even if you are not sure immediately what that meaning could be. For one person, it may be a ladybug landing on their shoulder. Without thinking, they flick it off. For you, however, that same simple happening could reflect a deeper communion. The landing of the ladybug is a reassuring touch of the Divine Mother upon your shoulder. Maybe a bird strikes its prey right before you. For you, it is a sign of great opportunity that you must be ready to act upon without hesitation. A single white feather, as if from an angel, could fall from the sky and land at your feet. Somehow you know everything is going to be all right. Another person may give these things not a second thought. When the oracle of Sacred Falcon shows the way comes to you, you are being told to trust the signs. Trust what your heart tells you, what you feel, over and above any apparent logic. Trust where you are being led and what you feel the divine is communicating to you through the happenings in the natural world. Trust in even the signs you sense through the modern world created by humanity, such as a song on the radio or a book that seems to demand that you purchase it. For there is divine guidance in all things if we know how to feel and look for it. I'm going to interrupt here and say this. It is very, very critical, foundational, pertinent that you really understand that it is not necessarily the divine guiding you to these things. It is literally your psyche. It is your higher self. Is there intervention from your guides? Perhaps sometimes yes. But you must understand that your psyche will focus naturally on the exact things, circumstances, conversations, acts that need to be considered, circumstances that are around you. You will be guided to focus on the exact things through your own internal psyche, through your own higher self. Very important that, okay? So it's essentially you're listening to yourself, okay? And you're trusting nature, both. You don't have to understand the bigger picture here. The messages you receive do not have to conform to logic. They don't even have to translate into words. You may simply have a feeling of connection and reassurance, a sense that cannot be justified or explained, that somehow whatever has been bothering you is being taken care of by a greater power, the bigger story. Whether or not you have a clear and conscious interpretation of what you recognize as your sign, you are being given valuable guidance nonetheless. At a deeper level, it has an impact and will inform your choices. So it is safe to have faith in these signs, and to do so, you will need to trust your own internal heart and feelings, okay? This is about learning to trust your own mechanism, your own body-mind response mechanism. Let yourself continue to be led by the inner instincts that recognize and interpret the signs and omens of life, even whilst your mind may question whether the divine could be so interested and active in the smallest details of your life. And this is nature, of course. It's the nature of your life. It's the nature of natural systems. It's the nature of your soul print. This oracle of Sacred Falcon shows the way also comes with a special message. Even in the most unlikely of circumstances, a way can be found. It will not necessarily be a consciously understood way. You can allow the instincts of your own nature to help you find what you seek. Instinct is not intellectual deduction justified by logic. Instinct is more like intuition, in that it comes from deep within the body. Where intuition comes from the heart, instinct arises from the body's knowing and expresses itself through your bones, a gut feeling from deep in the belly, or a sense of smell that alerts you to something or someone not being quite right. Instinct is your body's version of intuition and is natural and helpful, meaning it's functional naturally. Everything in nature is functional. Everything in your system is functional. The process of socialization and education typically tries to impose reason and logic, intellectual and rational explanation upon our instinctual self, as though the intellect were somehow superior. Intellect is a form of useful intelligence, but to allow it to dominate instinct is not intelligent at all. And of course, this is true, because there are at least four ways by which humans know the world. Analysis, the analytic aspect of the mind, is one. A sensory aspect is another. Our emotional guidance system is another, and our intuitive wisdom is another, right? Instinct can tell you when something is not as it seems, such as when a person's words do not match their intentions. You don't have to think about how you know, you just know. Instinct for when to trust or when to remove yourself from a situation or relationship, for knowing when to rest, and for knowing when to hunt for nourishment, is a natural part of your body's wisdom and helps you live well. When instinct is combined with the intuition of the heart, you are given not only powerful impulses to guide your life, but also the wisdom to respond to that information consciously and in ways that are constructive and will take you forwards in your life path. Instinct gives you the information, and intuition tells you how to deal with it in the best way. For thousands of years, wild birds have been tamed by the falconer for hunting purposes. One of the keys to falconry is the bond between the hunter and the falcon. It takes time to develop and is based on clear, simple reinforcement. When our wild instincts have been damaged by social conditioning, we can feel confused, uncertain, and lacking in self-confidence. This can happen when we ignore our body and sit at a desk for prolonged hours, or keep our emotions in check, not making a fuss. We ignore what we feel, and there's no logic at the time to support our feelings. Restoring the honored connection between instinct and intuition, between the deep knowing of our body and the loving wisdom of our heart, is an integral part of our rewilding journey to become a fully alive, divine human being, rather than one with a broken will and disconnected from mind, body, and soul. This oracle brings you encouragement with such a process. Just as the falconer builds a bond with the wild falcon, who then helps the hunter with their task, so too do we need to repair the bond with our own bodily instincts. This means that we do not judge them, we do not shame ourselves for them, do not blindly act them out, but nor do we try to repress them. We learn to listen, to care, to value, to respect. When our body feels something, especially something uncomfortable or pleasurable, when we are curious, open, inquisitive, and non-judging, and our intuitive heart responds to the information the body provides. When we choose to live with wildness, which means openness to all of who we are, rather than the parts that seem proper, appropriate, socially acceptable, controlled, and tamed, then we need our instincts, just like the hunter needs the falcon. We must learn to trust at that deeper level, restoring dignity to our basic responses to life and learning to use their messages with wisdom. If you have started this process of rewilding, of healing your relationship to your own instincts and letting them recover from abuse, suppression, or denial, then this oracle brings encouragement to continue. Your healing will be wildly successful and most helpful for your quality of life and your natural spiritual growth. Life can flow much more easily when you trust your instincts, even if at the time it seems more difficult to act upon what you are sensing. This trust will require you to have self-esteem, self-love, and self-confidence. If you feel you are lacking in any of those qualities, you can be sure this oracle is bringing you a message that they are being developed through the way you choose to respond to life experiences. Those qualities of love, esteem, and confidence are needed for your next steps on this path. It is an act of self-love, self-esteem, and self-confidence to trust in your instincts. You are being reassured that they will not lead you astray, but indeed toward nourishment. Listen, what I will say is this, and it's important to acknowledge this, especially with this particular narrative coming up for your process of growth in 2019. Trusting your instincts is key. However, most people have been so disconnected from it, and their perception lens is so fogged up with wound sets, skewing clear seeing and clear perception, that often, more often than not, there is work to be done on really addressing, seeing, confronting, and healing the inner wound narratives that drive unconscious or even conscious behavior, patterns of emotional response, patterns of mental response, etc. I could go on and on about this one actually, but I'm going to complete there. What I will say is this: for those who are ready to get very, very clear on your story, on your encoded narrative, please read my testimonials, come to my website, learn about my services. If you have not had an in-depth natal analysis to really understand the core narrative of your patterns, encoded, naturally imprinted patterns of being, your particular story, and its evolutionary growth arc, what are you here to learn? What is your optimal alignment with your work and career? With your optimal expression? What is the natural alignment, and how are the wound sets that are encoded actually serving you specifically, very distinctly, for that mastery arc? To understand all of it, the history of you, where you are in your present moment reality, and what your arc of mastery is key. It's absolutely a foundational tool. So please look into my services. Please order the natal analysis if you're called to do that, okay? This is the year to get very clean, very clear, very discerning, very empowered. This is about remembering your power, okay? Until the next time, I send you so much love for this beginning portal of a very dynamic 2019 year. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.